The Senate will please come to order. We'll begin this Friday morning with a moment of silence in lieu of a devotional. Thank you. Are there any announcements this morning? The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I know that many of our colleagues and many Vermonters are looking forward to the full opening up of the state and what that will mean for us here in the State House. And lots of conversations happening among the Joint Legislative Management Committee and Joint Rules and each of the Rules Committees in both of the chambers. I also anticipate there's going to be an announcement later today by the governor really encouraging all of us who are vaccinated when they are out in public to understand that they may not need to wear masks anymore. For the purposes of today, I'm still wearing a mask, and I wanted to explain, not everyone in our chamber yet is fully vaccinated. Many of us are, but not all of us. But I do anticipate that over the coming days and weeks, we will no longer be wearing masks in the State House. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any additional announcements this morning? Seeing none, hearing none. House Bill H-157 being on the calendar for notice and affecting the revenues of the state under Rule 31 is referred to the Committee on Finance. House Bill H-289 being on the calendar for notice and affecting the expenditures of the state under Rule 31 is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. We do have a joint resolution to take up at this time, JRH 6, relating to racism as a public health emergency, which was introduced on March 16th by Representative Chena of Burlington and others, and was read and adopted by the House on May 12th, 2021. Please listen to a reading of the resolution by title only.
JRH 6. Joint resolution relating to racism as a public health emergency.
You've heard the reading of the resolution, and in my discretion, I will be referring the resolution, which will be treated like a bill, to the Committee on Rules. This brings us to the orders of the day. We have on the calendar today S-115, an act relating to making miscellaneous changes in education laws. The House has proposed to the Senate to amend the bill as set forth on page 2080 of today's calendar. The underlying question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment with a further proposal of amendment as proposed by the senator from Chittenden? The senator from Chittenden, Senator Chittenden, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I will speak today, with your permission, to both the recommended amendments from the House as well as 2 additional amendments from your Senate Education Committee.
You may. Thank you.
So this bill originally passed through this body with 4 sections, and the House has revised, made small changes to 3 of those sections that I'll speak quickly to. They've also added 3 additional sections, which I might speak a little more to, since that will be the first time this full body has considered this language. The small changes to the bill that you all approved earlier this session had to do with the libraries of the great state of Vermont. They removed some sections that your Senate Education Committee also supports removing. It has to do with printed copies and certain requirements of statutes from municipal entities as well as federal and state entities and where they need to be stored. Gives more flexibility to our libraries by removing those sections. They also made small revisions to the composition of the Wellness Program Advisory Council, just allowing for additional school counselors and at least 1 member who's a school social worker. You can see those changes in the side-by-side documents if you're so interested. Small changes that are supported by your Senate Education Committee. They made 1 small change to the menstrual products section. They revised our language to change from the discretion of the school nurses in choosing which gender-neutral bathrooms from those bathrooms used by students in grades 5 through 12 to those who are 8 years of age or older. And then those are the small changes to the bill, the portions of the miscellaneous bill that you have already seen. Making it truly a miscellaneous bill, there are 3 new sections that I'll speak to now. One is a revision to what an act that has passed this through this body prior to this biennium, a revision to Act 1. It adds 3 additional members to the Ethnic and Social Equity Standards Advisory Working Group. It also makes clear that the agency of education is intended to support them from a legal, technical, and administrative context. And it also makes certain that there's funding available to do so. So a small revision to a previous act. The next section that the House has added to this bill for us to consider today has to do with the Board of Education. I'm sorry, my apologies, not the Board of Education yet. The pause of the implementation of the Shared School District Financial Data Management System. On all of these new sections, your Senate Education Committee took testimony from individuals. On this one, we heard from Michelle Baker from the Vermont Association of School Business Officials, as well as Bill Bates, the CFO of the Agency of Education, and Sean Cousineau. This makes sense for moving forward a new IT system for our school districts that is experiencing what I think all of us can relate to is kinks when employing a new solution in a variety of senses, a variety of different business processes. This pause will just allow for the school districts that have already started implementing the new software to work through those kinks with our contracting agency and then restart the implementation plan when those solutions are identified. The last new section has to do with the Board of Education and is also what the amendments, the further proposal of amendment from your Senate Education Committee has to do with, which is relating to the State Board of Education. The House has proposed Section 18, which asks for the Board of Education to work with the Agency of Education to generate a report clarifying their roles and responsibilities to be produced by this coming December. I understand this conversation also predates this biennium, and it goes back to previous discussions seeking clarity as to the role and the boundaries of the authority of the Board of Education. So this is asking for a clear report on that topic. Related to the Board of Education, your Senate Education took testimony from the Social Equity Caucus of the Vermont State Legislature and raised an interest in revising if you bear with me, I want to get the term correctly, the appointment of members statute for the State Board of Education. So what I'm now speaking to is part of the proposed amendment from your Senate Education Committee. It makes one small change to the section on the appointment of members to the State Board of Education to instead of to what extent possible, having members represent just geographically diverse areas of the state, broadening that to now say, to the extent possible, that members of this board shall represent the state's geographic, gender, racial, and ethnic diversity. So a small but very important revision to the appointment considerations for our State Board of Education. The second portion of your amendment, the amendment from your Senate Education Committee, has to do with the State Board of Education's general powers and duties. This language comes to us from the current chair, John Carroll, his support, as well as my understanding, the support of Secretary French of the Agency of Education. I do not recall hearing directly from Secretary French that he supports this, but indirectly, I am under the impression they coordinated together to bring forward this language. So this language makes clearer what the State Board of Education is focused on doing, which is at a higher level, looking at the perspective of education policy and long-term strategic vision of the delivery of educational services of Vermont. I hope I've done justice for these changes, the amendments from the House, which come to you with the support of your Senate Education Committee, as well as the proposal of amendment to this to go back to the House. Madam President, I turn it back to you.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment with a further proposal of amendment as proposed by the Senator from Chittenden and others on S-115? Are you ready for the question? The Senator from Chittenden, Senator Baruth, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. If I might ask a quick question of the presenter.
You may.
I'm just wondering, my mind is full of different amounts and different bills, and I was wondering about the appropriation here of the $50,000 for AOE for the cost of the contractor. And I'm wondering, Madam President, was that in a bill that we've already okayed, or is that a new addition?
Madam President, Madam President.
Please continue. There's some noise here in the chamber.
I hope I'm not stepping on anything. I was ready to speak to the proposed revision of allocations related to the Vermont Ethnic, Social, and Equity Standards, but I am unfamiliar, and I would wonder if you might recognize or consider recognizing the Chair of Education to address the Senator from Chittenden's question.
Most certainly. The Senator from Bennington and the Chair of the Education Committee, Senator Campion, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. My understanding, but I could absolutely be wrong on this, is that the Chair of Education worked with the House Appropriations and that this did make its way into the budget. But that I could look for clarification, and I'm looking at others to see if that is accurate or not.
And whether or not that's accurate on the House side, I am wondering about the appropriation. It's from the general fund, and just wondering, I don't remember it being discussed in our appropriations committee, so that's my question.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Booth. You're raising a very good point. There are things that we in House and Senate Education have moved forward with as it relates to federal funds that probably have not all gone through things that have come back to the House, or come from the House, but they've been set aside funds and things like that. This may indeed need to make its way to Senate appropriations, and if that's the case.
And I don't want to speak for the chair. It was a informational question. I would leave it to people well above my pay grade to determine that question.
I would like if the Lieutenant Governor would please recognize the Chair of Appropriations.
If she so desires, the senior senator from Caledonia and the Chair of Appropriations, Senator Kitchell, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I must confess I cannot give a definite answer to that. We can either take a recess and try to reconstruct this so we can answer the question about that particular reference of general fund. So I'm afraid I cannot give a definite response without doing some research. So if you want to either take a recess or pass over until we can get the answer, I can't provide it at this time. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you. And Senator from Bennington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Without objection, I would like to pass over it then, if I may, make a motion to pass over this with apologies to the Senate and to Senator Chittenden. And we will work with Senate Appropriations on this and see if we can perhaps return to it then later today as we navigate our way through the session and the calendar.
The senator from Bennington has moved that we pass over S-115. I'm just going to confer with the secretary briefly. And without objection, we will do so. We will pass over S-115 and move down the calendar for today. We have on the calendar for third reading H-183. Third reading was ordered on May 13th, 2021. Are there any amendments before third reading on H-183? Please listen to the third reading.
H 183, an act relating to sexual violence.
The question now is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Bennington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to clarify some remarks I made yesterday. I was pointing out the severity of the sentences for this crime, not because we don't understand the trauma that victims of sexual assault and aggravated sexual assault go through. I was pointing out that when we change laws and make adjustments, for example, in the definition of consent, we want to make sure that we don't have folks who are not guilty of a crime either charged with a crime or found guilty of a crime because of mistakes. So it certainly wasn't to suggest that the victims are not paramount in dealing with any crime. The Senate Judiciary Committee worked on Act 1 in 2010 following the tragic murder of Brooke Bennett and developed these mandatory minimums and maximums. So I just want to make clear that our remarks were not dismissive of victims. We are strongly supportive of our victims. We do want to make sure, however, that we don't have people who are innocent either charged or convicted of crimes because of mistakes we might make. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Kindly ask senators to unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H 183 in concurrence. We have on the calendar for action H 88, read for the first time on March 10th, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Agriculture, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as set forth on pages 2206 to 2208 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Finance, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the recommendation of amendment by the Committee on Agriculture be amended as set forth on pages 2208 to 2209 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 88.
H 88, an act relating to certification of agricultural use for purposes of the Use Value Appraisal Program.
The senator from Franklin, Senator Parent, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Agriculture.
Thank you, Madam President. May I speak to the underlying bill as well as the amendment from Senate Agriculture?
Certainly.
So not on page 2206, but section 1, which is the only portion of the bill sent over by the House, and the part that my colleague from Chittenden will speak to in a moment, of this bill, gives the Commissioner of Taxes discretion to waive the annual certification requirement if the Commission has satisfactory information demonstrating that land and buildings continue to meet requirements for enrollment in the current use program. Where the Senate Agricultural Committee made some adjustments was in section 2. We changed the definition of development to add that solar installation, solar panels up to 1/10 of an acre, so 4,500 square feet, very small amount, is allowed on open land that is in the current use program. Currently, that small solar installation would trigger a change in a removal from current use, which has impacted some forest lands. And this came as a recommendation from our Department of Forest, Parks, and Recreation, and we agreed to make that change. Section 3, second instance of amendment, we remove the requirement of the Department of Taxes Division of Property Valuation Review to obtain current use advisory board approval of current use application forms. We allow the director to make that piece. And then in section 4, we make the effective date July 1, 2021, and we did a title change to the bill. So a pretty minor, almost technical correction piece here that'll help our folks in the current use program.
Thank you, Senator.
You're over.
The senator from Chittenden, Senator Pearson, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee on Finance has an amendment found on the calendar. Senators will recall some years ago there was a change to current use that required an annual recertification from landowners. And at the time, and we set up a structure where the Department of Tax sends out a postcard, and farmers, landowners have to assert every year that they're still eligible for current use. In fact, we found several properties under that change had effectively unenrolled as they were no longer active. In that change several years ago, there was no easy way for a landowner to deal with their enrollment status if they were late for this November deadline. And it caused a problem with the Department of Taxes because they had to effectively treat it as if it was an extraordinary case when in fact maybe the postcard was a week late or something. So the bill that arrived to Senate Finance had this flexibility for the Commissioner of Taxes to handle that. And the Finance Amendment just wants to make it clear that this is about the deadline. If somebody has missed the deadline, then the commissioner has the ability to ascertain the information in some other way, talking directly with the landowner, and forgive that missed deadline. But we didn't want to make it more broad than that, and that was asserted as the what this was attempting to do, and so we just offer the language here to make sure that's in fact what it does. And Finance did support this on a vote of 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Agriculture? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Agriculture. The question now is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance as amended? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance as amended. The question now is, shall the bill be read for the third time? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 88. We have on the calendar for action H 106, read for the first time on March 24th. It was referred to the Committee on Education, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as set forth on pages 2209 to 2222 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Education, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 106.
H 106, an act relating to equitable access to a high-quality education through community schools.
The senator from Bennington, Senator Campion, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Education.
Thank you, Madam President. The problem that we're trying to solve with H 106 is that there are children across our state arriving at schools undernutritious, undernourished, lacking medical and dental care, needing mental health services, lacking access to transportation and adequate housing. In short, many students are not arriving at school ready to learn. Students may have dental pain, untreated medical conditions, and they're dealing with unaddressed trauma. This bill works to address these needs by having the Agency of Education identify those districts and supervisory unions that need this kind of support and allocating funds to qualified districts that will allow them to hire a community school coordinator who would be responsible for the identification, implementation, and coordination of services like the ones I've outlined. In other words, create community schools. Community schools can improve academic outcomes, attendance, high school graduation rates, close opportunity gaps, and further engage parents in the education of their children. Madam President, the House sent the Senate a bill that set up a community schools grant program where schools would have to apply for funding in order to create a community school and to hire a community school coordinator. However, your Committee on Senate Education decided to have the Agency of Education identify the schools that need this support the most. We gave them very broad guidelines, trusting their judgment. We said student bodies where at least 40% of the students are on free and reduced lunch, and a district where the schools are interested in committing to this work. Our concern with leaving it to the districts as the House had proposed it, we felt that those districts most stressed and in need of services wouldn't have the time to process applications or the energy or the staffing to go through the requirements in order to qualify. The House considered this work a pilot program. Your Committee on Senate Education sees this more as a cultural shift that needs to happen. We have low-income families and students throughout our state that need the kinds of support that this bill provides. And although only 3 years are funded using federal ESSER funds, the community school coordinators at these schools, we are encouraging to work to secure additional funds in their positions to continue the work at the schools identified. In addition to the free and reduced eligibility I've already mentioned, in order for a grant, a school must commit to supporting the following pillars of a community school. Number one, integrated support services, student supports. This is the kind of coordination around providing access to the kinds of wraparound services I referenced in my introduction, dental services, mental health services. We have a community school in Bennington, which called the Molly Stark School, started several decades ago with the support of then Congressman Bernie Sanders and a very talented principal, Sue McGuire, where there was an actual dentist's office in the school. And they too did wraparound services like the kind that I'm talking about, bringing practitioners, other supports into the school so families and children could address them right there, could be addressed right there. The second pillar is to expand and enrich learning time and opportunities. So this would be before school and after school weekend programs, things in drama, art, music, writing, science programs, homework assistance, tutorial programs. Third pillar, active family and community engagement. This is bringing parents to the school. This is perhaps offering parents GED services, financial literacy programs, bringing, again, parents into part of the learning that their children are doing and also enhancing the parents' learning as well. Fourth pillar is collaborative leadership and practices, creating a culture of professional learning, shared responsibilities between families and schools. And then the fifth is safe and equitable learning environments, making certain that those are created. The second part of this bill, Madam President, has to do, so I'll divide this into, I should have done in the beginning, but really two sections. We're looking at the community school piece that I just outlined. I'm now going to shift to a piece that's connected to community schools, but is also deeply connected to our agricultural community. And some of this will sound familiar since part of it was passed already by the Senate in S-100. So in the second part of the bill outlines what I feel confident speaking for my Senate colleagues as well as those on Senate colleagues in education and those on agriculture, is a real incredible opportunity. The second part of this bill creates incentives for the purchasing of local foods. Again, senators will recall that we've already passed a universal breakfast bill, and we've put $500,000 into the budget to incentivize the purchase of local foods. This language supports those dollars in the budget. It outlines the workings of a grant program to increase the amount of local foods being purchased. Madam President, this is the kind of economic development that will make a tremendous difference, not only in the quality of food that our children eat, but the farmers today and those who want to farm in our state. The opportunity to create a level of predictable markets is, again, a remarkable and important step in the right direction. And I want to thank the Chair of Agriculture and his committee for really what I see as transformative work. And I should mention, Madam Chair, this part of the bill came from their committee. The third part is the part that will look familiar to senators. This is the study that gets us to universal school meals at some point in the next 5 years. This pulls together a group of people. We've passed universal school breakfast. I believe senators can anticipate that coming back from the House in the days ahead. But this is a study that would get us to universal school meals, again, breaking down the stigma of not having the money to pay for meals, having to carry credit, all these kinds of things that would negatively impact the self-esteem of a young Vermonter. Additionally, we know, as I spoke about when we did S100, bringing people together, communal opportunities for students around the breakfast and lunch, we think are also incredibly important educational opportunities. Madam President, we heard from a number of different people on this bill. We heard from, of course, our Ledge Counsel, Dr. Boucher, Deputy Counsel, our Ledge Counsel, Jim Demaray. We heard from Dr. Boucher, the Deputy Secretary of Education, the bill's sponsor in the House, Representative James. Heard from Senator Pearson on the agricultural pieces of this bill and want to thank him for his support. Brianna Parker, Ledge Joint Fiscal, Ted Fisher from the agency. A few other highlights. I do have a list here that I could go on and on with, but a few other additional people that really were particularly helpful. Andrew Labarge, teacher at Molly Stark. Jay Nichols, the director of the Principals Association, spoke on behalf of all of those advocates in the world of education. Madam President, we had a vote of 5-1-0, and I think I'll conclude my presentation there and ask for the Senate's support.
Thank you, Senator. The Senator from Windham, Senator Ballin, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee has reviewed this and finds that it will not have a significant impact on the revenue of the state. So,
thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Education? Are you ready for the question? The Senator from Windham is recognized, and then the Senator from Caledonia.
Thank you, Madam President. May I interrogate the reporter of the bill?
You may.
Thank you. I have read this bill many, many, many times, and unless I'm missing something, I don't see any definition of community school. I see a definition of community school programs, but no definition of community school. And I only see in the beginning part, other than under the funding, my question is this meant to be designating a particular public school as a community school because it meets certain standards, thus making it eligible for this additional funding? Or is it actually setting up a new school that I would consider a charter school? because I don't see any definition of community school in here, only community school programs. And the only place that I see any reference to the community school programs is to public or secondary schools is in the community school program definition. So I'm confused what we're doing here, actually.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you, Madam President, for the question. To clarify, so these are public schools that are already up and going. So, for example, in Bennington, we have the Molly Stark School, public elementary school. It was identified early on as a school similar to what I talked about, where there's a high percentage of students with free and reduced lunch. At that point, other struggles that they were having. And so what the agency would do, and to get to your point of defining a community school, a school would have to adopt and meet the 5 pillars that I talked about, in short. So those 5 pillars to review are, they would have to agree to these integrated service supports, expand enriched learning, engage active family and community engagement, collaborate leadership practices, and have safe and equitable learning environments. So that really is the way that a school would, again, there's no official, if you will, certification for community schools. But what you're doing here is you're hiring a coordinator that would do these things. So a school like Molly Stark, just to give as an example, would have this coordinator and identify students, again, that might need, again, mental health services, might need to see a psychologist, might need to see a dentist, recognizing that parents are stretched. There are students that come from particular households that really struggle. And that person would help coordinate and navigate those kinds of things, in addition to the other things that I referenced in those 5 pillars. So, and I appreciate the question about charter schools. We're not starting new schools. So these are public schools that, again, that already exist, that the Agency of Education would identify as really needing these kinds of services.
I thank you, Madam President. I guess my question is, isn't this a responsibility of all schools to be able to function in this manner? And why would a school not be able to, is this so to allow them to receive additional funding from the Agency of Education to hire this person? Or could the school hire the person anyway within their budget and not be designated a community school?
Sure. Thank you, Madam President, for the question. As I mentioned, there are ESSER funds that the Agency of Education would allocate for these coordinator positions. Yes, a school could do it right now. Of course, they could use their local budgets and approve a position like this. I'm afraid that a lot of this now, Madam President, falls on teachers, on principals, on others in the schools. And I, for one, don't know how we could ask, and I'm sure, and we know that teachers are doing some of this work, helping out with dental appointments and making sure kids are getting mental health services that need it. In fact, we're learning more and more that, there are a lot of students that don't get these kinds of services. So in a way, what we're doing is taking it off of some of the teachers and administrators in schools and creating this position. One of the things that we did hear testimony on is you could appoint somebody to do this in addition to their regular work. But generally, when that's done, Madam President, the programs aren't successful. If, for example, I were a high school history teacher, and then someone said, in addition to this work, we're going to have you as the community schools coordinator, given the complexity, given the outreach in the community that needs to be done to coordinate all these services and programs, they tend not to be successful, Madam President.
Just one more follow-up, if I may.
Please.
Thank you, Madam President. Is there a limit to the number of schools that could qualify for this funding for the addition for the staff person?
Thank you, Madam President. It would be 10 districts. In terms of schools, the bill is written so that it could be you could have, for example, a district that might have 2 schools in it, for example, that really need this. So you could have, we gave flexibility, so you could have one coordinator working on with both schools. So, if you had 2 elementary schools in your district that you really believed, that the Agency of Education really believed needed these kinds of supports, you could hire one. So in some ways you could get up to a higher number if you had coordinators that shared schools. But there are enough funds for 3 years for 3 grants.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
The senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. May I ask for a point of inquiry and a point of order? Are we only voting on the amendment at this time?
We are.
Thank you, Madam President.
Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. Again, the question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Education? Senators are kindly asked to unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Education. The question now is, shall the bill be read for the 3rd time? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Madam President, may I interrogate the presenter?
You may.
Madam President, do I understand that these funds are being made available only to public schools?
Yes, Madam President.
So the funding as it is designed, if I read Section 4 correctly, is all federal money from a one-time payment, and it will cover the next 3 years. Do I have that correct, Madam President?
Yes, Madam President. Thank you.
And that after the 3rd year, there is no understanding at all about where funding would come from to maintain this system. Is that correct?
Madam President, our hope, if you will, is that that community school coordinators, as they have successfully in the past, and I can only speak again to the personal example of Molly Stark, have, and I mentioned this a little bit in my comments, have looked for funds during their time and have coordinated and done grant writing, things of that nature to continue these positions. But that is not guaranteed.
I thank the senator. Madam President, I am married to a public school teacher, and I am certainly sympathetic to what this bill tries to do. I have concerns, however, on 2 points, which lead me to conclude I can't vote for this bill. The first point is one of the most fundamental reasons that I ran in the first place, that we should never, ever take one-time federal money and create a program where people will become employed and become dependent upon the services that are offered without any way of having the state pick it up after that grant money runs out. The other problem I'm very uncomfortable with is we are sending a segment of our tax dollars through the ARPA funds to a specifically defined group of people and not including all school children who could obviously benefit from this program. And those 2 things leave me very uncomfortable, Madam President, and for that reason, I will vote against the bill. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Are you ready for the question? Again, the question is, shall the bill be read the 3rd time? Senators are kindly asked to unmute. All those in favor, the senator from Franklin is recognized.
Ask for roll call.
The senator from Franklin has requested a roll call vote. Again, the question is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the questions? The secretary is kindly asked to call the roll.
Senator Ballant.
Yes.
Senator Baruth.
Yes.
Senator Benning.
No.
Senator Bray.
Yes.
Senator Brock.
No.
Senator Campion.
Yes.
Senator Chittenden.
Aye.
Senator Clarkson.
Yes.
Senator Collmore.
No.
Senator Cummings.
Yes.
Senator Hardy.
Yes.
Senator Hooker.
Yes.
Senator Ingalls.
No.
Senator Kitchell.
Yes.
Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator McDonald.
Yes.
Senator Mazza.
Yes.
Senator McCormack.
Yes.
Senator Nitka.
Yes.
Senator Parent.
No.
Senator Pearson.
Yes.
Senator Perschlick. Senator Polina.
Yes.
Senator Rahm.
Yes.
Senator Sears. Senator Sirotkin.
Yes.
Senator Starr.
Yes.
Senator Terenzini.
No.
Senator Westman.
Yes.
Senator White.
Yes.
Senator Perschlick. Senator Sears.
Please listen to the results of your vote. The yeas 22, the nays 6, and you've ordered third reading of H 106. The senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I request that we go back to S-115.
Without objection, we will do so. We're returning to S-115. The senator from Chittenden has reported the proposed amendment, and the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment with a further proposal of amendment as proposed by the senator from Chittenden on S-115? Are you ready for the question? I see the senator from Caledonia, the chair of the Appropriations Committee, Senator Kitchell, has her hand up. The senator is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't know if this is the time because the question about the appropriations is in the House proposal of amendment, not the Senate further proposal of amendment. So at this point, should I respond to the question that was asked about the funding, which is in the House proposed amendment, and we just vote on the Senate further proposal of amendment? It's a matter of timing on the information.
Let me confer with the secretary. That is complicated. I conferred with the secretary, and just to confirm, I guess, or clear up any misunderstanding, if there is one, after voting today on the proposed amendment, the bill would go back to the House, and that's it. The bill would not come back to this body.
Thank you. Then perhaps my comments or my information is appropriate at this time.
Perfect. You may proceed.
All right. Thank you, Madam President. The question was raised about the funding that has been altered in this bill since it was passed out of this body. S-115 had a small appropriation of $4,000, and that was to support the library working group. The amendment back from the other body has increased that to $12,000. But the question was raised relative to the ethnic studies provision that had $3,700 that would be for the cost of a working group, and then for a $50,000 one-time general fund appropriation to the agency to undertake this work for a consultant. The Senate Appropriations Committee has not had an opportunity to discuss these appropriations. They are one-time in nature. They are seem to be modest. They cannot be accommodated within the one-time available general fund. So I cannot speak on behalf of the committee, but if after review by the policy committee that this is work that is important to carry out a legislative goal, I would say that the money is available, and those are the changes that are being made by the other body and can be accommodated within available one-time general fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Chittenden, Senator Baruth, is recognized, and I recognize that the senator from Bennington and chair of the Education Committee also has his hand raised.
Thank you, Madam President. I thank the Chair of Appropriations. My question was just to get clarification. I'm fully satisfied about the use of the money. It was the process that I was a little confused on, but I'm happy to fully support this use of the funds as the chair indicated.
The senator from Bennington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too want to thank the Chair of Appropriations and apologize for any confusion that was caused, and would encourage and hope the Senate will concur with further proposal of amendment to S-115. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment with a further proposal of amendment as proposed by the senator from Chittenden and others on S-115? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And you've concurred with the House proposal of amendment with a further proposal of amendment as proposed by Senator Chittenden and others on S-115. We will now return to our place in the calendar. We have on the calendar for action H-122. Read for the first time on February 19th, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Government Operations, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as set forth on pages 2222 to 2231 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the recommendation of amendment of the Committee on Government Operations be amended as set forth on pages 2230 to 2231 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H-122.
H-122, an act relating to boards and commissions.
The senator from Wyndham, Senator White, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam President. May I speak to both the underlying bill and the amendments?
You may. Thank you.
Thank you. So we currently have about 300 boards and commissions that are connected to state government. For the past couple summer falls, as a summer study committee, the Boards and Commissions Sunset Advisory Commission has been reviewing them to assess whether they should continue, whether they continue to have a need, or whether changes to the statutes should be made to reflect their changing missions. It's a little bit ironic that we set up yet one more commission to study whether we should have commissions or not. Senator Collmore and I serve on this summer study committee from the Senate. The commission makes its recommendations for deleting boards, making statutory changes to reflect any changes since it was established, or simply leaving it alone. H-122, as it came from the House, is this year's bill. It starts on page 2222 of today's calendar. Before I start, I should say that on each of these boards and commissions, we heard extensive testimony from the board members themselves, if they were still active, the connected agency or department, and the appointing authority. So no decisions were arbitrary or capricious, but came with the full support of the above mentioned entities. Section 1, 2, and 3 are really technical changes around the Forest Lands Board. Sections 4, 5, and 6 relate to the Commission on Women. Section 4 creates a new chapter in Title III for the Commission on Women. Because it was at one point called the Governor's Commission on Women, and it was established by an executive order of Governor Snelling, so it has never had its own chapter. This section 5, designates the statutory provisions for the Commission on Women into the new chapter in Title III. And it makes two substantive changes to the current board, the current commission. It removes the requirement that not more than 4 of the governor's appointees be from the same party, and it clarifies that not more than 4 legislators may be appointed to the commission at the same time, or serve on the commission at the same time. And the reason for removing the political parties from the governor's appointees is because they're not legislators. They don't identify as a party, because we don't do that in Vermont. So it's a little bit difficulty to suss out whether they're Democrats, Republicans, independent, or progressives. It also repeals the prohibition on the commission using any funds appropriated to the commission directly or indirectly for legislative or administrative advocacy. The role of the Commission on Women is to advocate for the role of women in the state and issues that affect them. And this is a prohibition that doesn't exist with any other board or commission. And Section 6 redesignates the Commission on Women statutes in a new chapter in Title III and directs Legislative Counsel to revise and correct any cross-references in the statutes annotated. Section 7 repeals the statutory provisions establishing the Division of Pollution Prevention and Toxics Technical Advisory Board at the Department of Environmental Conservation. It has been replaced by another active board, and this board does not meet anymore. Section 8 repeals the Champion Land Transaction Citizen Advisory Council. This was set up to deal with the Champion lands, and any duties that remain under that have been transferred or have been assumed by the Agency of Natural Resources. Section 9 repeals the Working Group on Conservation Easements. It no longer meets. Section 10 and 11 repeal the pre-kindergarten to 16 council from Title 16 and transfer some of those duties into a new Vermont Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund Council in Title 17 that is established in Section 11. That came from the Agency of Education. So this is the end of the original bill as it came from the Boards and Commissions Sunset Advisory Commission. This now is the amendments from Senate Government Operations. Section 11A amends H-122 by allowing the Vermont Climate Council to receive a per diem of $100, members of the Vermont Climate Council to receive a per diem of $100 a day, as long as it is available in the fund designated to the council for per diem compensation. There are two things to explain here. One is that our normal statutory compensation is $50 a day, an amount that hasn't been changed for about 15 years. One of the charges of the Sunset Commission this summer, fall, is to do a general review of all of our per diem statutes. The other consideration in this section is the work we have asked the Climate Council to do before December. We've required them to work with a diverse population on subcommittees in coming to their recommendations. Many of the people they would like to have on these subcommittees are people of limited means, and they would be required to give up time in paying jobs or farming. Well, we know that doesn't pay very well, but it does require time to contribute to the council. And we know that many on the council and subcommittees are not taking their per diems. So this would allow those who need it to receive $100 per meeting, as long as it stays within the budget. And I know that there will be an amendment later on from the Appropriations Committee on this. Sections 12 through section 17 address our emergency management system. This, to be clear, this is not the same as our emergency medical system. This is the department that got us through Irene, ice storms, hazard material spills, and more. And the difference, let me just say here, the difference between, because this is an important distinction, the difference between a hazard materials event and an all hazard event is hazard materials are regulated, strictly regulated by the federal government, and it does in fact just refer to hazard materials, not all hazard events. And all hazard emergencies are things like ice storms, Irene, floods, that kind of thing. Basically, all of these sections do a few things. Currently, our local emergency planning committees have responsibility for the planning of hazard materials emergencies. The regulations and responsibilities and reporting to comply with federal regulations around hazmat are onerous. So the responsibility for hazmat planning is now moved to one statewide entity. This will let the more regional commissions, made up of representatives from local committees, to plan for all hazard emergencies. This plan is extremely important. During Irene, we found that the region in Windham County was more prepared because the local communities had had the advantage of having been planning for a long time because of Vermont Yankee. So this reorganization will allow other communities to really plan for all hazard emergencies without having to also address the hazmat planning, which is onerous. Section 12 establishes the Regional Emergency Planning Committee and defines the membership. Section 13 increases the number of members on it from 15 to 17. Section 14 makes miscellaneous clarifications in the description of the duties, and mainly housekeeping in nature. Section 15 makes miscellaneous clarifications in the description of the duties of the local planning commission and adds the requirement that where a local planning committee represents more than one region of the state, the appointed representatives shall be geographically diverse. And while it sounds like local wouldn't represent more than one community, local in this instance is more regional. Section 16 repeals the Radiological Emergency Response Plan Fund. It's no longer needed because it was specifically in response to Vermont Yankee. Section 17 makes conforming language changes to the Emergency Management Division duties and repeals provisions related to the Radiological Emergency Response Plan. And Section 18 is the effective dates. The Emergency Management Division sections will take effect on July 1st, and the remaining sections will take place upon passage. We heard from Amran Aberjoli, our legislative counsel, Erica Borneman, Director of the Vermont Emergency and Homeland Security, Chris Herrick, Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, Representative Rob Leclerc, Kim LaPierre, Chair of the State Emergency Response Committee, Victoria Littlefield, State Emergency Response Committee, Patrick McLaughlin, Response Team Chief, Vermont State Hazard Materials, and Sue Minter, the ED of Capstone Community Action. The committee's vote was 5-0-0, and we ask for your support.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Essex, Orleans, Senator Starr, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam President. Your Committee on Appropriations did review H-122, and we heard from the Chair of Government Operations in regards to Section 11A, which set up a per diem amount of $100 for the members serving on this particular board. We considered that at length, but considering the fact that there is a summer study going to happen this year in regards to the per diems that we have paid, like the $50 for years, there's a group that's going to look that over and come back in January with recommendations of changing that per diem. And we felt that by setting this one precedent of paying this one board $100 instead of the normal $50 would sort of set up the tone for that committee to change the per diem, and we didn't want to interfere with that. So we recommend from appropriations to strike Section 11A from the proposal. And as I said, we did hear from the Chair of Government Operations in regards to this change. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The first question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. May I interrogate the presenter?
You may.
Madam President, I'm scanning here for the language, but the Radiological Advisory, here it is, Radiological Emergency Response Board, was that what it was called? Here we go. Is struck in this. Is that what I understand?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, it is. And I'm looking for the exact language here too, because we no longer need that because it was set up particularly for Vermont Yankee.
Well, that's the nature of my question, Madam President. Yankee's not operating, but of course we know that they are storing spent nuclear waste on site. This has been central to this whole issue, even though the plant has not been operating for many years. So I guess I'd like to understand why we think there's no longer any sort of threat of radiological waste, since it is, of course, still sitting on site.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't think that there's any consideration here for the fact that we still have that there and that we might have some kind of an emergency with it. But it relates to the planning area around Vermont Yankee, and that will, the response to that will be done at the state level by because it would be considered a hazardous material. So it will be part of the hazmat planning that takes place and their response from there, as opposed to the local planning groups that were dealing with it in the past.
Asked and answered. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations? The senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. May I inquire of the reporter of the bill?
You may.
I have heard it mentioned on occasion, concern over lobbyists serving on boards and commissions. I don't know whether that comes in under a conflict of interest question, or whether there's been any discussion in committee deliberations around the extent to which there would be, where it would not be appropriate for someone to be appointed to one of these boards or commissions.
Thank you, Madam President. In government operations, we have not addressed that. In the summer fall study committee over the summer, it is something that we could address. This year it has not been addressed. It has not come up as an issue, but we could look at it as a general rule, just as we're going to be looking at per diems as a general across the board issue.
Thank you, Madam President.
Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations? Senators are kindly asked to unmute. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm not sure if and I may be wrong here, but did we actually vote on accepting the proposed amendment from appropriations?
We confer with the secretary. My understanding is that's the next question we will take up.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I have that as. Okay, we will take that up as the next question. Thank you. And point of order, well taken. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations. The question now is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations as amended? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Government Operations had long discussions on this issue, and we understand the issues involved in it, and we had some of the same concerns that appropriations had. And while we would like to have had this happen, we reluctantly agree with the Appropriations Committee.
Thank you, Senator. Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations as amended? Senators are kindly asked to unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations as amended. The question now is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please unmute and say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 122. Senator from Windham is.
Did you want to do the all the way now, or do you want to wait? Let's keep going.
Let's move.
Okay.
The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Without objection, I would like to move H 122 through all remaining stages of passage.
The senator from Wyndham has moved that the rules be suspended and H122 be placed in all remaining stages of passage. Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've suspended the rules and placed H122 in all remaining stages of passage. We have on the calendar for third reading, H122, third reading was just ordered. Please listen to the third reading of H122. Before third reading, I want to confirm that there are no amendments at this stage. Please listen to the third reading.
H122, an act relating to boards and commissions.
The question now is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H122 in concurrence.
I'm just going to message it right now.
Okay. The senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I ask that the rules be suspended and that we message our actions on H122.
The senator from Wyndham has moved that the rules be suspended and H122 be messaged to the House forthwith. Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've suspended the rules and messaged H122 to the House forthwith. We have on the calendar for action H135, read for the first time on March 9th, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Government Operations, which reports that it's considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as set forth on pages 2231 to 2240 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Finance, which reports that it's considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. And finally, the bill was referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which reports that it's considered the bill and recommends that the recommendation of amendment of the Committee on Government Operations be amended as set forth on pages 2240 to 2241 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H135.
H135, an act relating to the State Ethics Commission.
The senator from Washington, Senator Polina, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam President. H135 makes a couple of it could almost be viewed as a technical corrections bill. It makes several technical changes and clarifications to the Ethics Commission's operations. The bill requires state executive officers to submit financial disclosures annually rather than biannually. Makes it clear that the disclosure should cover the last 12 months and not just the remainder of the calendar year. And the disclosures would have to include a certifying statement to make sure that they're being certified honestly. It does the same for the 5 members of the Ethics Commission itself. It also replaces the reference to the Department of Human Resources Code of Ethics with the Personnel Policy and Procedures Manual because we have no code of ethics to refer to at this point in time. It states that no commissioner or nobody on the Ethics Commission can be an elected judicial officer holder. The commission already prohibits legislators and lobbyists from serving on the commission. It moves commissioners' terms from 3 to 5 years and implements staggered terms for commission members. One of the more interesting things it does is it clarifies the differences between guidances and advisory opinions that are offered by the Ethics Commission. It makes clear that a guidance is issued only to a person who requests it, who's subject to this chapter of law, with respect to that person's duties as related to government ethics. Guidances are kept confidential. For example, if someone asks if it's okay to accept a trip to Hawaii, paid for by a corporate entity with business before the department where they work, that would be considered a guidance and it would be kept confidential, the answer, the question and the answer. An advisory opinion is broader and it's issued upon written requests of a person subject to this chapter to provide general advice with respect to their duties or other questions related to government ethics. The commission may also issue advisory opinions that are deemed necessary and broad. So this might be a broader question, such as when is it okay to accept a trip to Hawaii? A more general opinion. Advisory opinions are public and posted as they are of broader interests. The bill also extends funding for this Ethics Commission by removing the sunset for the funding that comes through the Human Resources Internal Services Fund, which is not an added revenue appropriation. Section 4 authorizes the creation of a part-time administrative assistant position for the commission using relocation of existing funds. No new appropriation, but the Appropriations Committee will have an amendment to direct it at that section as well. Our committee passed the bill on a vote of 4-1, and we hope that you'll concur with us.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Addison, Senator Bray, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Madam President. The Finance Committee reviewed a section that appears in today's calendar on page 2239. And that relates to the State Ethics Commission funding source surcharge. So as the Ethics Commission, the purview of it is all areas of the executive branch, agencies, departments, and offices. In order to support that work, there is a surcharge levied on those areas based on headcount, and that raises roughly $113,000 to support the work of the commission. So that is really an internal charge, somewhat like the BGS charge that operating areas pay for space. It has no effect on the general public, and therefore has no change to the revenues of the state.
There's no amendment.
The proposal of amendment was to move a sunset on that funding source from the end of this year to July 1 of 2022, and the Finance Committee supports that on a 7-0-0 vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam President.
Thank you. The senator from Chittenden, Senator Baruth, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Appropriations. And just to note, for those following, I think the amendments are on page 2240. Maybe there's a small shift in the calendar. So the senator from Chittenden is recognized.
First, a point of information, Madam President. Do references to Madam Speaker also generate a dollar?
Well, I do have my jar here today. I'm just trying to have the deepest respect for our speaker in the other chamber. So to the extent we can use Madam President, that would be great. If not, you're welcome to contribute to the coffee fund for next year.
Thank you. The Senate Appropriations Committee did look at this bill. We were unanimous in support of it, but the creation of the 0.5 full-time equivalent, one permanent exempt, 0.5 full-time equivalent, it was our sense that it wasn't worded in the standard fashion. And so what our amendment does is to provide that position in language that is typically used to do so. It's a little more specific, and senators will see there's no practical change. With that said, we were 7-0-0 in favor.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations? Are you ready for the question? I believe there was a senator who wished to be recognized. This senator from Washington, Senator Polina.
Actually, I appreciate it, Madam President, but I was going to speak to the Appropriations Amendment.
Okay, you're recognized for that purpose.
I just want to make it clear that the Government Operations Committee appreciates the work done by the Appropriations Committee to refine the language around the new hire prospects. So we support the Appropriations Amendment.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations. The question now is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations as amended? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations as amended. The question now is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 135. We have on the calendar for action H 337, read for the first time on March 19th, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Government Operations, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends the bill be amended as set forth on page 2240 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Finance, which reports that it's considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which reports that it's considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 337.
H 337, an act relating to the printing and distribution of state publications.
The senator from Windham, Senator White's recognized for the report of the Committee on Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam President. The Division of Documents was created in 1906 to address the printing and distribution of public documents, which narrowly defined state publications as acts and resolves and journals of the General Assembly and reports of state officers or of any commission, board, or person authorized by law to make such reports. It was the duty of the Commissioner of Public Printing, a successor to the Commissioner on State Printing and a predecessor to the Commissioner of BGS, to cause to be printed public documents and to deliver the documents to the custodian of public documents, who would then distribute them. Except for the Division of Documents being dissolved in 1970, much of the statutory change relating to this remains unchanged since 1906. So H 337, beginning on page 2241, addresses this lack of attention for the last 100 and some years. It will repeal some statutes and amend others to better reflect contemporary time and align with other relevant laws enacted in the last 50 years. Section 1 relates to the printing and preservation of the acts and resolves and clarifies that the Secretary of State shall print them and maintain those records according to our records maintenance statute. Section 2 allows the Secretary of State to designate legislative clerks without the approval of the governor. Section 3 relates to records that might be used as prima facie evidence of the laws, decisions, and statutes of other states. The state library no longer maintains these records, as they are largely kept in online databases. Section 4 corrects cross-references to statutes that are repealed later in this bill. Section 5 removes the Department of Libraries and other libraries to act as official depositories for official documents. They are largely outdated and have been replaced by the state's record management system. Our state archivist has defined over the years a records management maintenance system, when they should be kept and when they might be destroyed. Section 6 adds a new section relating to printing and distribution of the acts and resolves and Vermont statutes annotated. It enumerates which state entities will automatically receive the publications It changes those entities that used to automatically receive copies and will only receive them if they request them. And the state librarian can sell additional copies within their contract. Most of the language codifies and aligns with other statutes. Section 7 removes the requirement that copies of local military and monument records be stored in the state library. Section 8 repeals 15 statutes that relate to outdated duties of the Department of Libraries, printing and distribution dates that have been consolidated in this bill, outdated statutes related to the division of documents which no longer exists, and Section 9 is the effective date of July 2021. Madam President, we heard from Tucker Anderson of Legislative Council, Becky Wasserman of Legislative Council, Thomas McMurdo, the Assistant State Librarian, Jason Broughton, the State Librarian, and Tanya Marshall, the State Archivist. Thank you, Madam President. Our vote in committee was 5-0-0, and we ask for your support.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Addison, Senator Hardy, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Madam President. Your Finance Committee reviewed this bill, and we believe it was sent to us because of the provision related to the sale of legislative documents. However, we found that it did not have any impact on the revenues of the state, and we voted 7-0-0 to recommend approval of the work of the Senate Government Operations Committee. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. And the senator from Chittenden, Senator Baruth, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam President. Similarly, the Appropriations Committee reviewed the bill. We didn't think it made any substantive effect on the revenues, or I'm sorry, on the expenditures of the state, and we were 7-0-0 in favor.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bills recommended by the Committee on Government Operations? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations. The question now is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please unmute and say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 337. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Madam President, at this time, I ask that the rules be suspended and we place H 337 in all remaining stages of passage.
The senator from Windham has moved that the rules be suspended and H 337 be placed in all remaining stages of passage. Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you suspended the rules and placed H 337 in all remaining stages of passage. The senator from Windham is recognized. We have on the calendar for third reading, H 337, which was, and third reading was ordered just now. Before we do third reading, are there any amendments? Please listen to the third reading of H 337.
H 337, an act relating to the printing and distribution of state publications.
The question now is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H 337 in concurrence. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. My apologies. I feel like when I have this on my face, I don't hear as well.
I see you.
It's strange that way. You don't hear as well. At this time, Madam President, I ask that the rules be suspended and we message our actions on H 337 to the House forthwith.
The senator from Windham has moved that the rules be suspended and H 337 be messaged to the House forthwith. Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've suspended the rules and messaged H 337 to the House forthwith. We have on the calendar for action H 436, read for the first time on March 31st, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Finance, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as set forth on pages 22, checking this page number again, I think it's 41, but it may be 42 now. 2241 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which reports that it's considered the bill and recommends that the recommendation of amendment of the Committee on Finance be amended as set forth on pages 2248 to 2249 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 436.
H 436, an act relating to miscellaneous changes to Vermont's tax laws.
The senator from Washington, Senator Cummings, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Madam President. For those that are new to the chamber and haven't had the advantage of sitting next to your elders, there are some bills whose titles and topics are so broad that they lend themselves to having other bills hung on them. Thus, they have been traditionally known as Christmas trees. And your Senate Finance Committee has a long tradition of taking a number of smaller tax bills, sometimes some major tax bills, and decorating the miscellaneous tax bill with it. This keeps our taxes, our changes in taxes all in one place and keeps us from perhaps getting things mixed up as we walk through a number of smaller bills. The first section, this was a very plain bill as it came to us from the other body. Most of these were recommendations clarifying just some smaller changes made by the tax department. Section 1 makes it clear that when you order a meal from one of the meal platforms, Grubhub, Uber Eats, that any fee associated with that delivery is subject to rooms and meals tax. This is very similar to what we did with hotel booking, that want to make sure that the full cost gets taxed. Section 2 makes it clear, again, clarifies that when a meal is served that is tax exempt and the beverages sold included with it are tax exempt, that the alcoholic beverages are also tax exempt. The underlying statute is very limited. If the organization or entity preparing or serving the meal is subject to tax, that they would normally be subject to tax. So that's hotels, motels, restaurants, caterers. This doesn't cover them. It's only your traditional chicken pie, ham and bean, strawberry shortcake suppers that are prepared and served by your local church or fire department. If they want to get fancy and put a glass of wine with it or a glass of beer, then that also would be tax exempt. Section 3 allows the claimant to amend certain fields on your property tax claim form. Right now, you are only allowed to go in and change your household income section. This extends it to several other sections on the form. The one people frequently get incorrect is percent of ownership. Not like, do you own this along with, your kids or your spouse or your mother? And they confuse that for the equity in the house, how much they owe opposed to the mortgage company. These fields are chosen because correcting them will not have any impact on local clerks' property tax bills. It purely impacts the tax department, and it was actually proposed by the taxpayer advocate. Sections 4 through 8 allows the department and the commissioner to determine what are appropriate payment forms for taxes. Some taxes, it's got to be a certified check. Others, you have to have direct withdrawal or set up a special account. As this world and online is changing, this allows the commissioner, the department, to determine what is an appropriate payment form. Section 9 through 10 replaces inadvertently repealed subsection. This had to do with making the lien put on your property by current use as subservient, it may be subservient lien, but doesn't cause the problem that having two liens on a property has when you go to sell or remortgage. And we did that several years ago. It was inadvertently removed. And this section also repeals a section that was intended to be repealed on July 1st of 2020. That was the bill as it came to us. The next section sets a new creates a new statutory purpose for tax expenditures created in 2020. When we exempt something from a tax, we are supposed to put a purpose why we are doing it. We have charged joint fiscal with reviewing those tax expenditures. It's on a rolling basis. And part of what they have to assess is, does this expenditure, is it achieving the goal that the legislature wished to achieve? So this sets two new purposes. The first, which we missed, was when we did the plastic bag ban, the single-use plastic bag, and required that stores that said you could buy a paper bag if you forgot to bring your reusable bag with you, and that would cost you 10 cents. We determined that 10 cents would not be subject to sales tax. This sets the purpose for why we did that. It also sets the purpose, which is tied to 11A, for the sales tax exemption for feminine hygiene products. And it creates, 11A, a new sales tax. I think we kind of got the cart before the horse on that one, for feminine hygiene products. That was H53 that was voted out of this body. H53 came back to us with the cloud tax and a major rewrite of the corporate tax structure. We've taken our original bill, put it on here, and we're working on H53 as it came back to us. Section 12 increases certain town clerk's fees from $10 to $15 per page or per recording. Section 13 extends the sunset for the home health agency assessment for 2 years, from July 1st this year to 2023, and it extends the sunset of allocation of the healthcare claims tax revenues to the Health IT Fund, same time, July 1st, 2021 to July 1st, 2023. We do these regularly. It causes us to go back and assess whether or not these two fees are working the way we would like them to. Section 15 just synchronizes a reporting and a payment tax. It came to us from the Attorney General's office. Right now, pharmaceutical manufacturers have to report if they've spent any money in this state. I don't know how we allowed them to because we banned most of it. But if they bought anybody a lunch or they have to report it, that's due in January 1st. But the check and the truing up isn't due till April. Frequently, they'd say, oh, yeah, we did something. And then it'd turn out that they didn't. And somebody in these pandemic times, somebody would actually have to drive into the office and cut a paper check to send it back. This makes everything happen in April so that you report and then you send any a check, if any, in that's due with that report. Next section sets effective dates and also includes in section 17, this is one of probably two major changes that your Senate Finance Committee made that might not be considered housekeeping. Normally, we would set the property tax rate, the yield, in this bill. It's just housekeeping. The budgets are voted. We just set the yield to reflect the budgets. Last year was not a normal year. When we left in June, we were looking at maybe $170 million deficit in the Ed Fund. The revenue forecast in July reflected that. Thus, when the commissioner had to send out the estimated tax rates in November, it reflected the July revenue. We got back in January and found out that people seemed to be doing what they should do with a federal stimulus tax. They were stimulating the economy by buying big items, durable goods, a lot of them bought online. And thanks to the Wayfair decision, the revenues in the Ed Fund are pretty flush this year. And so the House wanted to be able to signal school boards as they develop their taxes for this year, their budgets, that things had changed significantly since November. They got the yield bill out early, and it's been through the Ed commissions and came to us early. We have attached it to this bill, but we made a change because there have been changes since January. Because of the pension issues which have surfaced, the cost of teachers, this is presently working teachers, retirement, pension costs that were put into the Ed Fund 2 or 3 years ago, have gone up $30 million. They were something like 6.9, they're now 36.9 million. Plus, the Appropriations Committee in the Senate budget moved the cost of presently working teachers' health care, health insurance, into the Ed Fund. That was a $13 million cost. So that's $43 million. Plus, this body has voted to fund free breakfast. The federal government will continue that, so it won't impact the Ed Fund this year as an expense, but unless the federal government goes through, continues that indefinitely, that will hit the ed fund. We know that the revenues in the ed fund are not going to continue. People will not continue once the stimulus checks go away to buy washers, dryers, flat screen TVs, and automobiles. And those revenues we anticipate will drop significantly. What's going to happen to the pension is still very much up in the air, but could be very expensive. There's a lot of federal money out there. There's also a lot of concern about school constructions and capital expenses. And so when the bill came to us, it had, I believe, 15 million on the bottom line. We felt it was necessary to leave money on the bottom line because the Senate has always opted for, if there's an influx of money, especially one-time money, don't throw it into this year's tax rate. You save it. If it looks like there's a good chance next year's tax rate could go up, you want to, or your revenues could go down significantly, you want to be able to have the funds to ramp it up and down. So in order to have money on the bottom line, your finance committee is recommending that we keep the property tax rate, the yield, the same as it is this year. This will leave us, I think it's 18 million on the bottom line, might be 13. I'd have to check that. And it will leave us enough money to be able to prevent any kind of sticker shock next year. The next 18, 19, and 20 are other provisions that were in the yield bill as it came out. The first adds an exclusion from excess spending penalty calculated on capital project costs. This, when the state provided funding for capital projects, in order to not have those included in excess spending, you had to have a permit or permission. You had to report it and get permission to do that capital expenditure. Well, I think it's been over a decade since we've had any money to put into capital expenditures. But somewhere in the books, there is a requirement that you still get permission to do a capital expenditure. Some schools haven't seen that print and have done capital expenditures on their own dime and have found themselves in the excess spending. It's kind of assumed that when we took away the money, we probably should have taken away the requirement that you get to spend the money that's we're not giving you. And this does that. Section 19 creates a 3.5% hold harmless provision for purposes of determining a school district's weighted membership. This is kind of a continuation. As the pandemic hit, a lot of parents chose to do homeschooling. We last year just said, no, your membership is the same. This kind of sets a gradual so that if you happen to have a small district where a larger number of families decide to continue homeschooling, maybe because they can't find childcare or other things, this just, again, allows schools to ramp down and not have a major change or major shift in their funding source. And there's a long history of our doing that, of doing an average and ramping up and down. Section 20, and I've also been told that this is important to small rural schools. Section 20 allows a school district that received the small schools grant in FY 2020 to continue to receive an annual small schools grant. As when we did Act 46, the merger, there were a number of sweeteners put in, financial sweeteners to encourage schools to merge and to help offset the impact that the financial impacts, initial financial impacts that some of those mergers might have. Because all schools got merged, we didn't close down small schools right away, if we ever do. And that small schools grant was converted into a merger cost grant. That's probably not the appropriate name. This would extend that benefit to all schools now that are merged. If you didn't do it voluntarily, we did it for you. And this has been presented to us by the other body as an equity issue. Everybody's merged, so everybody should have access to the same funds. See, 21 and 22 are studies that the tax department is just expanding things they've done. One is proposals of ways to assist towns in assessing particularly difficult properties. I think we're all familiar with the Bellows Fall Dam that frequently comes up as a dispute as to its value, and it's gone to court several times. The state does help with that. I believe there is a digester that is, again, a unique situation, and the town has no idea how you evaluate a digester. They just see this as updating, and the other one is to see if we can't get a little more granularity in our definitions of property class. We get residential, non-residential, but we don't know what's second homes, and in second homes, we don't know what's a deer camp, with an outhouse as opposed to what's a McMansion. So this would ask them to see if they couldn't find a little more granularity in doing that. Okay. The next section looks very simple, but it is the second major change that we made to this bill. As you remember, probably unprecedented, at least in none of our lifetimes, has the federal government made changes to the federal tax code literally days or weeks before people were filing their taxes. And this, there were some that came down in December. There were some that came down as late as March. And because the forms were printed and people were already filing and working, we said, okay, we will pass all those changes through this year. But we need time to think about this for next year. I think we are used to being the legislature and sometimes react badly to being told our power is limited. And so we said, nope, we're going to look at these. And we did. The one that's gotten the most attention is the payroll, PPP, Payroll Preservation Plan, I believe. It provided loans to businesses to pay their payroll and other expenses. It was eventually presented as a way to help keep people employed, to keep them off unemployment, to help keep businesses functioning when their revenues were dropped off or they were shut down. And if you did all these things and you used this money in the way it was prescribed to be used, it could eventually be turned into a grant. That was fine. And then I'm not sure if it was then and originally some of the testimony we had is that it was the larger businesses that had accounting departments that were able to take advantage of this. As the months went on, the federal government further refined this program, and we saw more smaller businesses, either because the requirements were more refined or because they were coming out of shock and finding themselves shut down and were finally able to think about surviving in the future. I think what threw us into a tizzy was the federal government also came out and said, not only will these now grants, once they're converted, be tax exempt, but you can continue to deduct the allowable expenses you would normally deduct as tax deductions. So normally you would make income. That's your gross income. Then you subtract out your allowable cost, your payroll, and you get to your net income, and that's what you pay your taxes on. That's very simplified. What this says is your gross income isn't taxed, so you don't have any tax paid there, and you can continue to deduct your basically payroll allowable expenses. That struck us as somewhat of double dipping. And that's the part I think that both the House and the Senate wanted a chance to look at further. Because these things were happening at crossover, the bill came to the Senate with a link up to the federal tax code that had both the PPP grants as tax exempt excluded and changes or broadening of one-time changes in the earned income tax credit and in the tax credit for child and dependent care. The committee took testimony, your finance committee did. I think we all agreed that we liked expanding EITC. We liked, expanding the child care and dependent care tax credit. These were good things. PPP, we weren't so sure about. As we looked into it, I started to feel like I was still back in health and welfare, where our motto is, it's more complicated than that. It got very complicated. It's hard. There seemed to be some businesses we thought needed this and others we didn't. Some businesses would have taken the deduction in this tax year, but their loan wouldn't become a grant until this tax year. It got very confusing and very complicated. But we really wanted to do those other things. And I think what finally, and we wanted to help out the small businesses who pointed out to us, look, we can't pay taxes out of the PPP grant. It's not an allowable expense. If we held money back to pay the taxes. So now we're just getting on our feet, and you're going to tell us we have to come up with X $1,000 in taxes. And that's, for the really small, struggling ones, that's a pretty hard blow. So two things were brought to our attention. First, the federal government did this along with making your UI benefits tax exempt. They are normally taxable because they did mean for it to be a program to help businesses get up on their feet. They meant these to be a double deduction so that they would have some cash. But probably the thing that changed our mind was further federal clarifications of ARPA funds have said that if we lose revenue complying with the federal tax code, that we can use ARPA funds to cover these losses. The loss in revenue. Plus, not all of these changes were figured in the revenue forecast that the budget was based on, or money had been set aside for the EITC, independent care, because it was assumed we would do it. So these changes allow some relief and pass through to businesses, and it allows an expansion of EITC credits to low-income working people. It allows some relief on childcare and dependent care costs. It does not impact the budget. The EITC and childcare will, if they get extended for more than 1 year, but at present time they do not. And so that's what's included in here. We're doing it by moving the date that we link up to. So it may not be obvious, but that is the recommendation of this Committee on Finance. All right, I don't have section numbers with the next one. 26, I do, is an amendment that was brought to us by the auditor, a request. It was a last minute one that I think it was 2 years ago. Because of the issues that have come up around the non-performance that's resulted in the hole in the ground with the downtown mall that is part of the City of Burlington's waterfront TIF, we have allowed, if they meet certain conditions, for that TIF to be extended 10 years. The auditor has pointed out, Burlington has two TIFs, waterfront and downtown, and both of these TIFs went in before the unifying state statute that regulate most TIFs. There were, I think, 6 that went out before that statute went in. So they are not working on the same rules that more recent TIFs are. That with that extension, it was possible that there would be 15 years without an audit, a required audit by statute of the waterfront district, and that there is a lot of taxpayer dollars at play here. So, and he can do an audit anytime, but he has to pay for it. If we mandate it, then he doesn't have to pay for it. The TIF district does. So he asked us to mandate it, and we have. The City of Burlington is not thrilled, mostly because they have an audit scheduled this year on their downtown TIF, and that is they don't want to have to do another audit next year. The proposal from the auditor is he'd do the waterfront TIF this year and then, wait a year or two. But it is here, and I think my final instructions to the interested parties were, I think this committee is saying it's unacceptable to go 15 years without an audit. If the interested parties can work out a schedule that works for them, bring it to the committee of conference, and I can't see why it wouldn't get accepted. But right now it is in as the auditor has proposed it. That is it. The rest of it is just technical changes, and putting them in. The other is the link up. We have not changed the federal link up. that came to us from the House, because it's very important to them that we not find out we've linked up with the tax code that was done in August. We don't do it till February. The forms are filled out. They don't want to end up where we are now. So we are linking prospectively. There also, somewhere in here, I missed it. We did link up to the federal estate tax code, and my memory is saying there is one other one that I missed. No, that was PTP. We did the estate tax. We linked up the income tax. If I missed one, I will report it before third reading, but I believe that is it. It's after lunch. We heard from almost 20 witnesses. I will be happy to furnish that, but I won't read it. It was all the usual suspects. Your vote in finance was 7-0-0, and we asked this body to concur.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Chittenden, Senator Baruth, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam President. The Committee on Appropriations approved this bill on a 7-0-0 vote. We did have one amendment, which senators will see on page 2248 of the calendar. The amendment the topic of the amendment should sound familiar. The language is actually traveling in another bill, but it was the thought of the committee that the miscellaneous tax bill was the best vehicle for it. This speaks to wood pellets and taxation and exemption of that taxation if an individual on the vendor's premises or delivered to an individual's residence shall be presumed to be purchased for residential use. And this clarifies an existing ambiguity and indicates that those sales of wood pellets would be exempt. The only thing to note there is that there is an exception if the vendor knew or ought reasonably to have known that the wood pellets were not purchased for residential use, then they are not exempt under that circumstance. A certificate of exemption shall not be required in the case of this amendment. So with that, Madam President, again, our vote was 7-0-0. We recommend both our amendment and the bill to the Senate's support.
Thank you, Senator. We will first take up the amendment by the Finance Committee and then the Appropriations Amendment. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Addison is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to underscore a couple things that the chair of Senate Finance Committee said about this bill. It's long, and I know that people had, it was a long report, but there are a couple things in this bill that I'm personally really excited about and wanted to highlight. And one is the tax exemption on feminine hygiene products or menstrual products that we passed earlier this session. That's included in this bill and is a great way to promote gender equity through our taxation system. Other things in this, as the chair mentioned, are linking up with the federal tax code to help small businesses with getting their PPP loans forgiven without taxation, to help families with children get the child tax credit for childcare, and to help people who qualify, lower income Vermonters who qualify for the earned income tax credit, to be able to take advantage of that expanded tax credit this year. These are really important things to help families and businesses and Vermonters with lower incomes, and also women and others who purchase menstrual products. So I just wanted to highlight those things. There's a lot of other important stuff in this bill that's much more technical and sort of smaller in scope, but those are things that really can have an impact on our constituents and Vermonters across our state. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Are you ready for the question? Again, the question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance? Senators are kindly asked to unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance. The question now is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations as amended? The senator from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. As mentioned, the wood pellet tax clarification, Senate Finance has put that on the miscellaneous energy bill. As we were voting out miscellaneous tax, miscellaneous energy seemed to be in some trouble. So it was a bill in our committee. The sponsor of that bill brought it as an amendment to miscellaneous tax, which is also an appropriate place. We have since voted out miscellaneous energy, and I think you can anticipate we will have an amendment to remove that section from miscellaneous energy.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations as amended? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the bill as proposed. You've proposed to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations as amended. The question now is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, kindly unmute and say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 436. We have on the calendar today H 171, an act relating to the governance and financing of Vermont's child care system. The House has proposed an amendment to the Senate proposal of amendment as set forth on page 2248 of today's calendar. The underlying question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment to the Senate proposal of amendment? The senior senator from Chittenden, Senator Lyons, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Health and Welfare.
Thank you, Madam President. As the senator from Washington indicated, it's always more complicated than that. As we received the proposal of amendment from our House counterparts to H 171, we were ready to concur with that proposal. However, in the meantime, we learned that new guidance had been issued from the federal government regarding ARPA funds. So as I go through, Madam President, I would like to go through the proposals of amendment concurrently to describe how we are responding to the House proposal.
Thank you, Senator. And I should just briefly correct, it's actually page 2249 where the amendment begins.
Thank you, Madam President. So the proposal does two things. First, the proposal of amendment that we are offering back to the House is a further proposal of amendment. It does two things. First, it clarifies how federal dollars might be distributed by our administration, our Department of Children and Families, to our child care facilities, ensuring that, and the second thing it does, it ensures that monies are available for our child care workforce support programs from the appropriate federal dollars. So Section 10 is the section we're looking at. As it came to us, as we sent it over to the House, we had a report back on how ARPA funds would be expended for child care facilities. The House has returned it to us with some conditions and for the expenditure of the federal dollars. So it asked for the Department of Children and Families to consult with stakeholders, including various numbers of individuals, and to submit a plan by September 21, that would direct the appropriation of monies from federal dollars. The plan that will come to us from the Department of Children and Families would ensure certain conditions based on family income, would clarify increased improvements to care and diversity, the care for a diverse number of kids, and would also provide for a plan that would help stabilize our child care facilities, including our Head Start programs. So overall, this Section A of Section 10, Sub A, would allow for the department to send a plan for distributing money to our child care facilities that ensures came to us from the House, clarifies which federal dollars may be available for use when our workforce development programs are.
I'm sorry, Senator, I'm just getting the sign that we have a technical difficulty, so I'm just going to ask you to pause. It looks like we, just a moment. $436. Just checking we may have dropped it. We may have.
Start programs. So overall,
We were so close.
According to.
Okay. It sounds like we're still live, so there we have it. You may continue. Sorry about that, Senator.
Thank you, Madam President. I will begin with Section 10, small b, where we left off. And we learned in the process of revising Section 10 overall and adding the amendment to H-171 that stabilization funds from the federal government are not eligible for use in workforce development programs, so the scholarships and the loan repayment programs. So Section B is an amendment that clarifies that if child care development block grant funds that we receive are not available, that is, if future guidelines indicate that the block grants are not available for that workforce support programs, then we would look to other state funds and possibly have to move to the budget adjustment process in fiscal year in 2022, next year when we come back. So the change that we've made to the proposal from the House is really a technical change based on guidelines that have come to us from the federal government. Section 16 is not changed. The effective dates are as they have come to us from the House proposal amendment. And our committee would ask that the Senate support our proposal of amendment and return it to the House as quickly as possible so that H-171 might be sent to the governor very soon. We did hear from Stephanie Barrett of Joint Fiscal and also Katie McClin, our legislative counsel, and that is the report on the proposed amendment. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment with a further proposal of amendment as offered or proposed by the Senator Lyons on H-171? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've concurred with the House proposal of amendment with a further proposal of amendment as proposed by Senator Lyons on H171. The senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I would like to suspend our rules to message our action on H171.
The senator from Wyndham has moved that the rules be suspended and H171 be messaged to the House forthwith. Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've suspended the rules and messaged H171 to the House forthwith. There has been a request to pass over, the senator from Wyndham, there has been a request to pass over H438, and without objection, we will do so. I believe that brings us to the conclusion of the orders of the day. The senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Pending announcements, I move that the Senate stand in adjournment until Tuesday, May 18th at 10 a.m. And while I have the floor, I would just want to say, I know there are several meetings that were planned for 12:30 in conjunction with the House. The House is still on the floor. So any meetings that you would be expected to attend at 12:30 have been rescheduled. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Wyndham has moved that the Senate stand in adjournment until Tuesday, May 18th at 10 a.m., subject to announcements. Are there any announcements? The senior senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Appropriations will meet at 1 p.m. It's Friday afternoon, and we just got a bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Government Operations will meet at 1:30, and just for people's information, the Conference Committee on the Retirement System will meet at 2.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Grand Isle is recognized, and kindly unmute.
The Senate Conference Committee on Transportation will meet at 1:30.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Are there any? The senator from Rutland is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. May I speak on a point of personal privilege?
You may.
Thank you, Madam President. Quickly, I wanted to clarify an error that was printed and since corrected in the Wednesday, May 12th published Senate Journal. On page 945, you will find the roll call vote for JRH2, the resolution which condemns the state-sanctioned eugenics policies and practices. The Journal originally showed that the vote was 29 in the affirmative and 1 in the negative. The negative was listed as me. I was notified of this error by a concerned constituent who believed that I voted no for this important resolution. I wanted to take this time to make sure that all Vermonters know that I was absent from this important vote due to a training being held by my employer that I had to attend. If I had been on the Senate floor, I would have absolutely locked arms with my Senate colleagues and voted yes for this resolution, which acknowledges this disgusting practice and offers an apology to those who were affected by this terrible treatment. I also want to thank the Senate Secretary's office for fixing this error immediately. I hold no animosity due to this simple typo and thank Secretary Bloomer and his team for jumping all over this error. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any further announcements? The senator from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Finance will meet at 1 o'clock. We also received a bill today and have one more to get out.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Bennington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Education will meet at 1:30.
Thank you. The senator from Windsor is recognized.
Thank you. Is this a moment when I might inquire of the pro tem?
If the pro tem so desires.
Yes, I desire. Well, I don't know if I desire. I'm willing.
Madam President, given that joint rules has been canceled and we're about to adjourn, I'm wondering if the pro tem would entertain Senate Rules meeting.
We can have a Senate Rules Committee meeting immediately following the floor. I just want to advise the members of Senate rules that we haven't had a real opportunity to discuss the resolution that we may take questions from regarding, or rather from the Chair of Health and Welfare. So I will call a meeting. We may not be prepared to vote on it at this time. We'll have to see. So immediately following the floor, Senate rules, please.
The senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate institutions will meet at 1 o'clock. Please be prompt, and that would include any members of my committee who are on Senate rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I just am inquiring of the, if I might, of the pro tem.
The pro tem is standing. Go forth.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if there are any bills in the Rules Committee that need to be addressed.
One moment.
I don't.
Thank you. I realize there are still charters in the House, but I don't know if any have come over.
No new ones.
No new charters at this time.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no further announcements. I do have an announcement. On behalf of the Committee on Committees, the House has requested a committee of conference on H433, an act relating to the transportation program and miscellaneous changes to laws related to transportation. Pursuant to the request of the House, the Committee on Committees has met and is appointing the following senators as members of the Committee of Conference on H433. Senators Mazza, Perchlik, and Chittenden. Further, the House has also requested a Committee of Conference on H360, an act relating to accelerated community broadband deployment. Pursuant to the request of the House, the Committee on Committees has met, and the following senators are appointed as members of the Committee of Conference on H360. Senators Cummings, Pearson, and Brock. Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, hearing none, the senator from Wyndham has moved that the Senate stand in adjournment until Tuesday, May 18th at 10 a.m. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please unmute and say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and the Senate stands adjourned.